Welcome to the Social Podcast, where no discussion or debate is off limits.
Welcome back, everybody. So listen, joining us today, host of The Social's Mom Life Crisis and the NSL on TSN, Kate McKenna is here. Let's do it.
Okay, we're gonna dive right into this because it's an exciting time for Canadian tennis fans. Last night in a nail-biting 2-hour and 46-minute match, teenage sensation Victoria Mboko made history as the 4th Canadian woman to advance the Canadian Open final. So tonight she's gonna face off against 4-time Grand Slam champion Naomi Osaka. So what is your reaction to her advancing to the final?
So excited. You guys can't see it, but I'm shaking a little bit. I'm so excited. Okay, I just need to say this. Canada has another tennis star on the rise right now. We are witnessing history right now. We've seen this a few times. Jeannie Bouchard, Leylah Fernandez, Bianca Andreescu. And now we have Vicky Mboko, who is 18 years old and has the power and skill and maturity of someone way beyond her years. Just before we started the show, I was actually watching News Channel, and her first tennis coach, Doug Burke, was on, and they were asking him all these questions about her skill and her talent. And he's like, she showed this type of poise and focus when she was 4 years old. And she had the skill, I know, at 4 years old, it's incredible. So it was so great to see that, because we're seeing that right now. And anybody who watched that semifinal match, there were some ups and downs. She got injured. And then I saw her coach do something. She would just look at her coach, and her coach would do this, which was focus. No matter what's going on, focus. And every time she did that, she came back and she got the match point. And I was like, you know what? We're witnessing history. This young woman went from 333rd, and now she's poised to be in the top 33 of tennis players. This is incredible. And it's interesting that we're watching this because she's playing Naomi Osaka, 4-time Grand Slam winner. Not a big deal, whatever, don't be nervous.
Yeah.
But this reminds me of, do you guys remember when Naomi Osaka had to go up against Serena Williams?
Of course.
And she beat her, and that was the beginning of her, this rise of her star. I feel like we're watching that right now. But I also feel like, win or lose, we are watching history, and this young woman, her star is rising, and I know we're gonna be talking about her a lot more.
I don't want to humble brag or anything, because you were saying that, you know, her coach could see this at age 4.
Yeah.
I played with Vicky Mboko when she was 8.
What?
Come on.
I know!
How did that happen?
It was for a news story.
What junior program are you weaseling your way into, Melissa?
You know, listen, we come from the world of news, and you get thrown to stories, and they were like, there's this young, great tennis player, and it must have been during a sweep of the Serena Williams, maybe even Venus Williams. This is going back a decade, and they were like, she's going to be something. And I'm like, she's 8. Okay, sure.
Yeah.
But look at her now.
Did she beat you?
You know?
Did she beat you?
That's a great question. So, Cynthia asked, did she beat me?
Yeah.
She beat me so good.
Yeah.
She was 8.
That's amazing.
So listen,
That's amazing.
it did start early, and
Yeah.
I did have the chance to hang out with her parents and actually a few of her siblings. She's the 4th of 4. They all play tennis. And so when you look at that maturity at only 18, the poise, the control, she never lost it. Even though she was almost out so many times yesterday and made me stress, she always brought it back together. And I think that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I think when you looked at Dad, who was watching her, Dad and Mom, and some of her siblings were in the audience, Dad has also that self-control and poise. Every time she would score a point, you know, there's, you know, Mom in blue, she's cheering. We can't even see Dad. You know why? Because he doesn't barely get up, you know? And this was finally when she won. It was the first time the whole match that he actually smiled. The first time he got up and smiled was when she won.
Yeah.
So I think she gets a lot of that self-control and strength and confidence, quite frankly, from Dad also. Yeah.
Well, and listen, like, I'm so pumped for her. I'm pumped that this country has a tennis star like her. And I think, you said it, I think no matter how she does tonight, she's a sensation. But what I start to think about is, what's the long game here? When you have a star who's so young, she's 18, how do you make sure that star doesn't burn out? And we've seen these young players, some of them have ascended rapidly and then crashed. But I looked at someone, do you guys know Summer McIntosh, the swimmer? She debuted at the Olympics at 14. There she is at 14. In 2024, 4 years later, she had 3 golds and a silver at the Olympics. And last week in 2025, she's only 18 now at the World Championships, has 4 gold medals. So she's someone worth following. And I was curious about how she is managed. And I was reading an article, and her parents talked about how they've always put her at the center of her own career. And they said even when she was 10, when other elite swimmers her age were training 6 times a week, she was like, I think I only want to do 4. And both the coaches and the parents respected that. And I think that's key to an athlete's success.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't her mother also an Olympic swimmer? So her mom knows,
Yes,
so she
that's
has
right.
someone who can truly guide her. And I think whether we're talking sports or entertainment, I think your family and who's around you is going to determine how well that you transition into the superstardom. But we're here for it.
Yes.
And just FYI, follow her on social media. I already followed Vicky, and I'm already in her DMs asking her to be on the show. Just so you know, I'm looking out for us.
She trains at Ontario Racquet Club in Mississauga, so shout out.
We will be there on the weekend.
We will be there on the weekend. Well, listen, why don't we move from the tennis court to courtship? Because the U.S. Open recently announced it's going to be hosting its very own reality dating show. You're like, what's the connection? It's going to be an 8-episode series, and the name of the series, Game, Set, Matchmaker. Very clever. It's going to feature Ilana Sadaka, who they describe as a tennis-savvy bachelorette.
She's not AI. She's not AI. She's a real
That's a very good point.
She's
Thank you
also
for
not
that.
a tennis stance either.
Yeah, she's not a tennis player. They call her tennis savvy. And she's going to be matched with 7 men. They'll be going on dates, and that includes playing games, exploring the tennis center. The series is set to air during the upcoming Grand Slam tournament, which is later this month. But a lot of tennis fans are already worrying that this is a big gimmick and kind of maybe distracting for the sport of tennis. So is this disrespectful to tennis?
No.
Is it?
No, I don't think so at all. Listen, I'm so anti-gatekeeping in sports. I think because there are generations of families and fans who cheer for a club or a team or a league, sometimes if you are not familiar with a sport, you're made to feel other than. So, like, I know when I started my career in sports, it was like, oh, you can't tell me who won the Grey Cup back in 19 whatever?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you don't
That's
belong
awful.
here.
No, you're
And the
right.
reason I say that is because I think we're in this era of sports culture where we should be bringing more people in. It doesn't matter if you don't watch game in, game out of tennis. If you fall in love with the sport or the arena or the activities around the sport through this game, I had no problem with it. It's none.
Yeah.
You know what? Okay, well, we're sitting next to each other, but we're not agreeing on this one because I feel the opposite. I think they should rename the show Game Set Garbage because that's what it feels like to me.
Why?
And I'm gonna tell you why. You know, ever since Michael Jordan's Last Dance docuseries, did you guys watch that? It came out in 2020. There's been an onslaught of really great sports docuseries that have introduced people to sports, whether it's F1, whether it's the Birmingham Soccer Club. And it's interesting because you really get to know the people and the management and the fans. And it really gives you a chance to understand the sport and maybe just fall in love with it, whether you are a novice or a fan to begin with. And I feel like this show, even though I love, don't get me wrong, I love a dating reality show. Y'all know. Ultimatum, Perfect Match, you name it. I love all the shows. I don't understand why we need to marry these two things and have a person who's not a tennis player, but a tennis novice with cleavage. And to me, it's doing a disservice. And we were just talking about Vicky Mboko. Well, let's think about the Vicky Mboko who's 8 years old right now, who's really excited about tennis. And now we're gonna have a show on where we're taking this sport that she loves and we're putting sex on it. For what reason, I don't understand, and it's people who don't play the sport. I don't get it.
What do you think, Sin?
I'm not a watcher of either tennis nor dating shows, so I'm a bit right up my alley. But I do think there's something a little bit tacky about this. Like it feels a little desperate, right?
Yeah.
Even still, I'm not protective of the game of tennis, but they are trying to attract another new audience, which I also understand. Even though I didn't know this, even though tennis happens to be one of the most popular games in the United States, like people love to play it.
26 million people.
It isn't the most. It draws a smaller viewing audience than both football and basketball, and also Gen Z in general isn't watching.
So
as many
Gen Z
sports.
is watching reality dating shows.
That's right. So they're trying. It's a business.
But you're
decision.
trying to tie two things.
I know, but
Who
I guess
cares?
they're just trying to like bring in the next generation of audience because presumably, if less and less young people are watching it, eventually live sports things could presumably die. What my question is why tennis? Like, how would people feel if this was a Super Bowl dating show, or if this was like a Stanley Cups dating show?
But
would we feel like I feel like there's some fans who would come
I think that this
and
is
be
a
very
trial. Don't
upset
you think
about
this is? It's only going to launch on YouTube to start. That is where the young people are watching things. They're not watching traditional television. They're just not the way that our generation does. They don't. I think this is a trial. It's 8 series or 8 episodes. It's on YouTube. I think if it flops, games garbage. But if it also does well, that you might see it transfer over to main network television, in which case mission accomplished. When you brought up F1, if anybody watches Drive to Survive, it brought in a whole new fan base to F1 racing.
Yep. 30% of the fans attribute it to that show.
And that's
they
great,
live to
but
that
it's
show,
about-
but it's also about money. Because I think when you saw what happened between 2018 and 2022, the revenue, because of new viewership, their annual sponsorship revenues are up $3 billion. This is about money for tennis,
You're right.
I think.
You're right, but here's the deal.
Yeah.
What's great about that F1 show is it's focusing on the people who are already a part of the sport. It's not taking someone who's never driven in a race car before and put them in some low-cut top and say, oh, you know what, we're gonna sex it up and we're gonna date. No, it's about the actual sport.
Yeah.
You're just giving them like a behind-the-scenes documentary about what's going on so people can fall in love with it, and that's why I don't like this show. And it also reeks of some older person going, we gotta get to the younger demographic. What do they like? It reeks of that.
Let's see.
The kids aren't
Let's
stupid.
see what happens.
The kids aren't stupid.
Let's see. All right, everybody. Follow up with us in a year and see if Andrea's in or not on that show.
I know, I'll be hosting the show and the star
Exactly.
of Game Set Garbage. Right here on Crave.
You're a sucker for those shows. I know you.
I know. A writer for Scary Mommy opened up about a time that she was shamed by a stranger for being on her phone instead of actively playing with her kids at the playground. Now, she argues that playgrounds are for kids to play with other kids, not for the parents. All right, audience already has their opinion. All right, so do you think parents should play with their kids at the playground? Wow, okay.
Wow.
All right, parents.
Okay,
what do you guys-
I love this topic because I agree. I agree with all of you. I think the majority of you. Number one, I'm going to make an admission here on TV. You know, parents often will say that they had different ages or phases of their kids' lives that they enjoyed more than others. I did not enjoy the playing part of playing. I didn't like it. I'm sorry to admit it, but I was never the parent that played. It was always Ryan was the one who played. So I'm not shamed to admit that. So obviously in the playground, no, I'm not up in there in the sandbox with Marquesa. I also do believe the element of this is there's two things happening here. Yes, a lot of parents are on their phone too much. That's true. But the other part of that is sometimes, especially mom, also needs a break for a minute. And if the playground is the place that you say, okay, it's a safe environment, there's other kids. I have one child. She needs to be with other children. If that's the moment that I can go, and she's okay, don't judge me. I think it's totally fine. I think it's totally fine.
All right, what do you
I
think,
mean,
Kate?
I think about this a lot. I have a 3- and a 6-year-old, and I spend a lot of time at playgrounds. I think what irked me the most about this article is it was this woman yapping too loudly, shaming the mother who's on her phone. And I think in that moment, she's making an awful lot of assumptions about what that mother's doing on that phone. She may be scrolling Instagram or TikTok, and guess what? She's allowed, if that's how she wants to parent and take a break. She may also have been doing things like pre-ordering groceries, buying a gift for an upcoming children's birthday party, making dentist appointments, actively trying to manage the emotional and actual labor of a household, while also watching her children and getting them outside so they're not on screens. So I think we should stop making assumptions about what mothers are doing on their phones. But I also think another part of the problem here, and you touched on it, Mel, is when I was growing up, my parents sent me out the door and I could go to the park by myself. But that's because there were other children at the park for me to play with. Now, in my experience, that's not the case. There isn't that same collective, that same community. And I think
village is gone.
The village is gone. So there is part of me that thinks, you know what? Maybe sometimes I should put down my phone and play with my kids, in part because there aren't other kids for them to play with. And at the end of my life, you know what I'm not gonna say? I'm not gonna be sitting there being like, you know what I should have spent more time on? Instagram Reels.
Yeah, it's true.
You know,
Never.
I'm probably gonna think I should have spent time playing with my kids.
Yeah.
You know what I wish? I wish that woman had said that to you. She would have got it. Like, you picked the wrong mom.
Were you at the
What do you think,
playground
Sid?
lots?
I did. Well, obviously, only child. And I did find, even though some of it was boring, I was aware time would pass by quickly. So I tried to make the best of like the sandbox, which is a boring place, let's be honest. But I had to feel interactive because also moms can't win these days. Because if you're there and you kind of take your eyes off and the kids start fighting with each other or like interacting with one another, and if you intervene, you're considered over controlling. If you pull back and you don't do anything, then other parents are starting to judge, like, why aren't you dealing
you're
with
too
your
corrective.
kids? Come and get your kid.
Sure.
So we do live in a different generation of parenting where I just feel like it's the moms always who are the ones that end up being judged. And then moms are judging each other. So like, I don't know how this routine
And where are the
stops
fathers
going
in
on.
all of this?
Well, some of them are there. I don't want to say that. That's fair.
Question.
In fairness, there are a lot more dads. I do want to say that there are a lot more dads.
There's also a cultural component to this. You know, I read a lot about and have relatives in Europe where the parents are not only not playing with the kids in the playground, they do still have a little bit of the free range parenting happening over there, which is kind of let the kids be kids. But in that, we talked about this, was it yesterday's show with the helicopter parenting or a few days ago, where there is the helicopter parenting where you feel like you need to be involved in every movement that your child is having. The flip side of that is the way that we were raised, we did not have access to our parents 24/7.
No.
There was a time when they said, leave me alone. And you had to be on your own. So I think there was
we also trusted
grappling
other
with that.
parents in the village to parent our kids, right?
Yeah.
And we don't want that anymore. I remember there was one time I was actually at the park and there was this little kid who was on top of a rock. And I saw the kid and they seemed small. I don't know where the parent was. I wasn't judging the parent, but the kid was like, I gotta get off. And so I picked up the kid and then the mom came out of nowhere and she was looking at me like, what are you doing with my kid? And so like there's this kind of like we have all learned to
danger.
mistrust each other. And that's also part of the problem.
I think part of it's just a quick solution that I came across is parents stepping off collectively. There's a town in California and they've arranged in the community Friday nights from 3 to 5 p.m. All the parents drop off their kids at a certain park and leave. And I think that is a genius idea.
What ages?
The age is said between like 4 and 10, but I love that. You know there's gonna be kids there. You can
If I was traveling to the States, I would go there.
Me too.
But I'm not.
You know what?
But I'm not.
Okay. Let's move on because we got to talk about this. Rihanna's latest maternity look. I don't know if you guys have seen this. Yeah, okay, well, it might be her most controversial yet. Or is it though? Because I know that's the reaction, mixed reactions online. Some are calling it odd attire, and others are saying that she's revolutionizing maternity wear. So do you guys think she's actually revolutionizing maternity clothing?
Oh, interesting. I do. I don't think that's going to take off. Like, I think that looks like sort of like a ice cream explosion. But I do think she was the first person that I saw. Let's be honest, the bearing of the midriff when you're pregnant had happened before. So I think we saw Kate Hudson on a red carpet showing her bare midriff while she was pregnant. I think we saw Denise Richards. Maybe there were more than that. But Rihanna, when she did it that first pregnancy.
But Rihanna was cool.
And she came out with this look. That was the first time ever that I actually started to see women on the street doing this. And I've always felt like that was like so vulnerable to have your pregnant belly out there like that. But I feel like she has revolutionized it in that way. It trickled down to the streets.
See, this story to me is a non-story because it's like Rihanna's always been that girl. She is that girl. She'll always be that girl, whether she's pregnant or not pregnant. There's an expectation. She's also a rock star, and she had her babies with another rock star. So I've never seen Rihanna like not look good. And we also have to remember, I'm not a pregnant woman, but if I were a pregnant woman, I'd be a little annoyed by this conversation because I'm like, first of all, she's a superstar, and she has a team of people to make sure that she can look like that with her belly properly moisturized, hair and makeup done, jewelry on, the crucifix is in the right place. Let's not forget that. And also, she's not at the grocery store when we see these pictures. These are paparazzi or professional photographers taking these pictures. I don't know about y'all, but when I leave the studio, no one's taking my picture while I'm at No Frills, picking up like stuff that I have to buy. So I think we have to keep that in mind. But you know, she's also not the first celebrity to do this. I feel like we've seen a lot of people. Beyonce, are we forgetting? B, when she did her whole pregnancy announcement. I'm also thinking about J-Lo. I know. What did J-Lo look like when she was pregnant? I know you know.
Listen, she was a little more conservative because I asked for those pictures. Remember the one, the Beyonce announcement one? Beyonce was in her Mark Anthony era. She was covering up a whole lot back then. We're glad she's back.
Why is Britney in the picture?
And then Britney was there because she was pregnant at the same time. She was pregnant just before I was pregnant. So these were the three women that influenced how I dressed when I was pregnant.
Did you dress sexy?
I was pregnant in front of Canada for a whole year, and I was like, tighter, 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 please. And so I will say it did trickle down, even before Rihanna. It definitely trickled down because here's the thing, even if you don't want to dress like that, it allows women to understand that what is considered normal and socially acceptable, it's maybe bigger than the muumuu, right? We can move beyond the muumuu. So I do thank those women for doing that, even if it was staged, et cetera, et cetera.
Just saying.
A a woman wrote to the Washington Post for advice. She said her friend has recently started a romantic relationship and can't seem to talk about anything other than the new boyfriend. She says she's also become flaky. She barely returns texts anymore. But as the last single person in the friend group, she's worried she'll seem jealous if she confronts her friend about this. So how do you handle what is being called relationship tunnel vision? Get in a relationship, it's all you can see, it's all you can do.
I mean, we've all been there, right? Like
Yes.
there is that phase of a new relationship. It's often called limerence, and it's characterized by that sort of obsessive limerence.
I thought it was just horny.
Well, that's one way to put it as well. But it's that's part of it for sure. But it's also that kind of like, I can't think about anything else. I'm totally obsessed. This person can do no wrong. There's sexual excitement. It's all those things. It's this very potent cauldron of hormones for sure. And I think I have a friend who's going through this right now, and I just like love them through it. I'm just like, you're gonna come up for air eventually. And literally and figuratively, you're gonna come up for air eventually. I think the one thing is that we don't talk enough about, though, is the grief component that can go along with that. Because if you're used to a particular dynamic with a friend, like let's say whether they're in a relationship or not, you guys always take solo vacations together or something like that. And then all of a sudden, this new relationship means that they're now going to be taking vacations with that person, or they're going to try to bring that person with it. It changes the dynamic, and I think you go through a grieving process that is hard to talk about because you can't really share that with the friend, and there's no real guidebook to deal with it.
Can you not share it with the friends?
I don't think you can. I mean, maybe you can, but maybe you also just have to wait it out, like, and just see where it lands 6 months down the road, if they come back to themselves, or if you have to reimagine a whole new dynamic with your new relationship.
Interesting. This has happened to me plenty of times. I don't think I ever grieved over it.
No?
No, I think I just kind of expected it because I know what it feels like. I always put myself in the other person's shoes. I'm like, okay, dating is hard enough. You found someone that you actually connect with. You're gonna be excited. And I want that for you. I want you to have that love. So what am I, as the friend who's single, what am I saying to my friend? I know you're excited. I know you guys are doing stuff with each other. But what about me? It feels a little bit, I don't understand how, like, it's not gonna be a natural way for your friend to wanna hang out with you. If she wants to hang out with you, and it's kudos to people who can get into a relationship and still balance all of their friendships. We would all like to be that person. I also think it's healthy for a woman to maintain that boundary so that the guy can see that she's not throwing her entire self into him, but that's another story. But I think, what are you asking your friend to do? I don't think you have to just let her be. Just like when a new mom, when one of your friends, has kids, you have to hands off and let her be in that moment. It's her thing, and it's gonna take all of her energy. And when she comes back up for air, you'll be like, we were waiting for you. Welcome back. And I don't think you should give your friend a hard time. And I also wonder if this friend also just met a new guy, would she still be having this conversation?
Because she said she was the last single friend. I think that plays into it.
I think she's,
for sure.
I think she's, yeah.
Well, I know you're super close with your girlfriends. Has this come up in your friend group?
I'll be honest, I'm kind of more in this camp. This has happened to all of us, but it's never become an issue.
Yeah.
We are just like, girl, have fun, see you in a little while. And I think because we've all, the idea of watching, there's actually something that brings me almost no bigger pleasure than to see my friend fall in love or lose themselves, because isn't that kind of like, and the other part is my friendships aren't rigid. Friendships should always be ebbing and flowing like every relationship, and I would hope that they would show me that same grace, and they have. So the only time we've ever piped up is if we thought this is not a good guy. But I'm never gonna step in the way because I'm also gonna let you learn your lessons. So I think if you've got a good solid friend group, you kind of feel like there's ebbs, there's flows, people will come back. You know? Yeah.
I guess I just wonder if two things can be true. If you can be thrilled for your new friend and also grieving the fact that that friend is no longer in your space in the same way. And I think we can hold space for that too.
Yeah, I get that too. I get that too.
Subscribe to the Social Podcast so you don't miss a fiery debate. Until next time, socialites.